Hey, greetings, Earthlings! Welcome back to 7th Street. I just finished seeing Godzilla King of the Monsters, the new Legendary Pictures addition to its Monsterverse, which I will say before getting into the review, I am pretty excited for. You know, although I'm not the biggest fan of these movies, I'm always, a supporter of more kaiju films out there, even if I'm not the biggest fan of them. So anyway, getting into this film, I don't really know what to say. I literally just got home from the theater. I saw it with a big group, saw it with my girlfriend and my little cousin and my best friend and some other friends. Big group, we went in to go see it. Anyone who's seen my Godzilla ranking video will know that I consider the last Legendary Pictures Godzilla film to be my least favorite. I'm a Toho purist, not just with Godzilla films, but with, all of their other classic sci-fi films. For me, it's not even just the Americanized kaiju films. It's also like the later films in the series. I mean, my favorite films in the Godzilla franchise are almost all from the Showa series, and then, some from the Heisei series. So, for the most part, my taste lies with classic, original Godzilla films. So, it should be no shock to anyone that I didn't love this movie. I knew that I wasn't going to love this movie, but at least I kept my expectations low, just like I did with the first Legendary Pictures film. A couple of things. I guess we can start with the good. There were some things that I really did like about this film. I liked that they tried. They tried to have fan service in it. First and foremost, they used a lot of Ifukube themes, like the original Godzilla themes. They used the Terror of Godzilla theme. They used Mothra's theme in this movie, which I thought was really cool, They did things like, they referred to Ghidra as Monster Zero for a little while, which is a nice little nod to Invasion of Astro Monster. There were interesting things. I do like that Dr. Serizawa in this film does sort of a self-sacrifice, like the original Dr. Serizawa in the first film sacrificed himself for the greater good. So there were some things that I definitely liked about it. The addition of Rodan was obviously a nice addition. The action was nice, I suppose. There were, spoiler alert, there were other kaiju in this movie that I was not expecting. Obviously, you have Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidra. They did have some new kaiju that were thrown in there very briefly that weren't Toho canon. And then you did have, like, Kumonga in there, which was a really nice surprise. So that was pretty cool. That's probably about it. I'm glad that they tried. They tried for people like me. People who are purists, who were not happy with the first one. They really... It seems like they really listened. They were like, okay, people complained about the limited monster action. We'll have a lot of it. People complained that there weren't, other classic Toho monsters. We'll give them that. People complained that we didn't use Ifukube music. We'll give them that. So, it does seem like they were trying. The story here is a little whacked. Spoiler alert. It follows this family that both parents work for Monarch, this organization that works for the government that kind of keeps the Titans under wrap. And their family kind of gets torn apart in the last Godzilla attack in 2014. And the mom ends up joining this kind of like eco-terrorist group that's hell-bent on giving the world back to the Titans. And yes, I keep saying Titans with air quotes because I hate Titans. I hate that they did that. Like, just call them monsters or call them kaiju. Why do you have to call them Titans? That's a really lame name. Anyway, this eco-terrorist group unleashes all the Titans, and then they figure out that Ghidra is actually from space and isn't a real, Titan for planet Earth, and chaos ensues, and now, Godzilla's gotta reclaim his spot as the king of the monster, and, the mom sees the error of her ways, and it just was like, once again, just like the last film, like the human story was just kind of, you just watch it going, huh? The mom lost her son and then just decided, oh, fuck it, let's just, destroy the world. She still has a daughter and a husband. I don't know, I was laughing at all of the human drama. And since when did Mothra become the queen of the monsters? Kind of sounds like you're assuming Mothra's gender there. Godzilla gave birth to an offspring in an earlier Toho film. So, Godzilla could be a female. Godzilla could be the queen of the monsters. I don't know. I don't know when Mothra became the queen of the monsters. That just was sort of annoying, and the characters making sex jokes about Godzilla and Mothra. It was just weird. There were just too many things to it that just as a Godzilla fan just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I just couldn't get into it. It's basically Transformers, but recognizable Godzilla monsters. That's really all this is, I half expect the next one to have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in it. The monster designs in this, I've just never been a big fan of. I don't like the way the legendary Godzilla looks. Ghidra and Rodan looked pretty good, and they actually sounded pretty good. They kind of had a little bit of their iconic roar to them. Mothra is interesting in this film. I really didn't like the larval stage of Mothra, but the adult Mothra was pretty badass, actually. I'll have to sleep on that a little bit. The other ones were just, like I said, Ghidra and Rodan were passable. They looked pretty good. Mothra, it'll take me some time. She had some cool abilities that I hadn't seen before. They were pretty cool. So yeah, there's that. There was a thought that I had while watching this movie, and it's that I just don't think you'll ever make everybody happy with making an Americanized Godzilla film. I think that, it's either one or the other, you know what I mean? I think you'll probably never make Toho purists completely happy. No matter what you do, they'll pick it apart, right? I'll pick it apart, I just won't like it. And then if you give, too much fan service, I think that maybe adding Ghidra and adding Mothra into the mix, I feel like, I was in the theater with all these people who are probably just run-of-the-mill action movie fans who, they go and see Fast and the Furious, and now we're gonna go see this, Godzilla movie. Might be kind of cool. And I feel like they're probably watching it going, what the fuck is this? This is, weird, because they're not aware of the other films. So I think this film may have shot itself in the foot by trying to give fan service. You're never gonna make diehard Godzilla fans happy, and I think you kind of alienated yourself a little bit by making this film. Just a thought that I had. I do get a lot of hate on my Godzilla video, my Godzilla movie ranking video. I get a lot of hate from people because I don't like the Americanized Godzilla films. And, It's fine if you like them. It's totally cool. And I can get why somebody, especially the younger generation, this is how they're introduced to it. I can understand why they would like these films a lot, and they would mean a lot to them. For me, it kind of goes back to, you'll never recreate the feeling and the look that the Japanese films have, that that Toho Studios puts into their films. For example, you have movies like Ju-on that's remade in the United States as The Grudge, or you have Ringu and they have to remake it as The Ring. And that's because Japanese movies are so distinctly Japanese that it's hard for Western audiences to watch them, to get into them. They're just too Japanese. The Japanese have a very strong culture. My grandma is Japanese. My Oba-chan is full Japanese. My dad is half, and I'm a quarter. And it's sort of been a trip, because I did grow up getting to see how prideful they are in their own culture, and just how different that culture is from our culture. I was obviously, raised, just run-of-the-mill white boy English, but, I would go to my Oba-chan's house, and things were very different. And it's just, like I said, it's hard to explain, but, those films, those original Japanese Godzilla films, the original Toho films that I fell in love with, are just so distinctly Japanese that even when you, intercut stuff with Raymond Burr and in certain films, or the crappy dubbing, it still just has this in look and in feel. It's just so unmistakably Japanese and, Toho. And I think that, I don't think that Legendary Pictures is making a bad action film or a bad monster film, but it'll never have that Godzilla feel. So that's kind of just defending myself when I say that, I just don't consider these Godzilla films. They're just not Godzilla films to me. Things that I didn't like about this film. The fan service got a little out of control. Just randomly in random scenes, the military is just like, we've been working on this thing called the Oxygen Destroyer, and they shoot it in and it stuns Godzilla. It does nothing. It just seems like, they had some researchers when they were writing the script just on the Godzilla Wikipedia page, just looking things up, and it's like, oh, Oxygen Destroyer, we'll use that, and it got to be a little much at times. Also, there's just way too many one-liners in the movie, and anytime there was one moment in the film that I thought was pretty cool. Spoiler alert. They kind of revive Godzilla from being stunned, and the military decides to fight alongside him to fight Ghidorah. And it cuts to this scene, and it's got Godzilla with all these planes and battleship destroyers, and it's playing the Terror of Godzilla theme. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And then all of a sudden it just cuts to this guy who's supposed to be the comedic relief, and he's like, Serizawa got that lizard supercharged. And it's like, you just killed any momentum that it had. And that's, once again, kind of an example of why it just doesn't feel like a Godzilla film, a Toho film wouldn't have done that, doesn't really make a lot of one-liner jokes, and especially when it's supposed to be this big heroic moment, why would you ever kill it with that? The CGI wasn't great in this film. Some stuff looked good, and some of it looked like there was budget cut from the last film. I thought the CG in the first Legendary Godzilla was really good. This one just didn't look, I don't know what it was about it. There were just definitely moments where it was like, this is kind of cartoony looking, and it kind of looks like a video game. You know, one thing I will say that I thought was pretty funny was the main character. I don't know that actor's name. Once again, like I said, spoiler alert. You know, him and his family, they were in San Francisco during the first Godzilla film, right? And him and his wife and his daughter, they, like, lost their son. Their son got killed by Godzilla, like, crushed in a building or something. And then, of course, like, the family, like, falls apart, and now Dad is, like, you know, living out in the woods, taking pictures of packs of wolves. And, like, you know, it's just so cliche with the military. They, like, chopper into the middle of nowhere, like, out in the woods, and this, like, ex-military monarch scientist, he's, like, living in a log cabin on the lake, living off the land, and they're like, we need your help, and he's like, no, I don't do that anymore, I retired. Like literally every action movie ever, like Commando, and even South Park recently made fun of it in their Inception episode, Inception, where they, like, have to go get Freddy Krueger, and he's, like, living in a log cabin chopping wood, and he's like, I don't do that anymore. It's like the most fucking cliche action movie trope, and this movie was, like, full of them, and some of it just, like, made me laugh. Like, I was literally sitting in the theater when they're talking to him, just saying, please say I'm retired, please say I'm retired, please say I don't do that anymore. It's just you know, it was a bit of a trip. And there is one thing that I gotta mention. Fortune cookies are not Japanese. They're not even Chinese. They're not Asian. That's an American thing. That's an American Chinese restaurant thing. And they have Ken Watanabe, a Japanese actor, playing Dr. Serizawa, a Japanese character, make a joke about, I read it in a fortune cookie once. That's not Japanese. I can distinctly remember a moment in my life where I was talking to my Obachan. She used to go back to Japan pretty frequently to see family. And I was really young. You know, we were talking about things like bringing me back a souvenir. And I mentioned Bruce Lee. I really liked Bruce Lee when I was a really little kid. And I can remember her losing her mind and going, Bruce Lee is Chinese! That's not even Japanese! So when they had Dr. Serizawa utter that line about the fortune cookie, I swear to God, I could hear the voice of my late Obachan saying, that's not Japanese! That's not even Chinese! But, you know, overall, it's worth seeing. I mean, they'll keep making these and I'll keep seeing them, you know. I'm not a fan of superhero movies, you know, so I don't just run out to go see those, but I am a really big fan of kaiju films, so, you know, even if they're bad, I'll go see them. So, you know, if you're not, like, a huge Godzilla purist, then you might like this movie. I would recommend checking it out. If you are a Godzilla purist, just, you know what you're getting yourself into. It's a popcorn flick. It's kind of stupid. It's not really Godzilla. What else can I say?